Well, Femi and I she was born just about half a mile from where I live. So I bring you greetings from the mad British who are currently thinking about leaving the European Union and don't know whether their food will follow. I gently remind the British that 30% of their food comes from within the European Union, and the average time of stocks for food in Britain is 3 to 4 days. So on June the 28th, it'll be very interesting. Okay. It'll take longer, but you get my point. But these are very messy times. My job actually, as Femi just hinted there, is to introduce the theme for the rest of the morning, which is about cities. We had in the early morning very big scale stuff from Johan and others, ending with Mary Robinson, a very strong moral appeal from the Prime Minister here from Samoa, of a stark reminder of the front line from climate change and how it's affecting people. Why am I interested in cities? Why have we at the EAT Forum made cities one of the themes? And tomorrow morning, there's one of the competence forums, one of the strands is going to be discussing it. Well, it's partly, and I'm probably going to offend 90% of the politicians here, I hope not you, which is that actually national governments, we have got, Mary was quite right, we've got the SDGs, Johan was right, the climate change, we are beginning to get an architecture, a policy architecture, which is interesting, but actually is not translating into much change. The indicators are not good. And there is an upsurge of interest in cities as a sort of a meso level, a medium level, of closer to people, but also powerful enough to enact change. That essentially, well, I haven't got the sticker. Where's it? You can tell I'm a professor. I think I can never decide whether I'll use, Johan is fantastic on these singing all slides galore. These are my notes, handwritten. It'll come back, remember that, handwriting. It's quite useful. Why cities matter? Basically, they have huge footprints. I will give you some figures in a moment. But they're also meeting places for food. And food is one of the biggest factors that cities have in terms of what we can change. Food riots have a very honorable tradition of people, and I don't mean that lightly, of people literally voting over food. Think the French Revolution in London. I biked through the marketplace where the first peasants' revolt came to its end. There is a long tradition of food and city destabilization. This is not impossible to think about in a world of difficulties ahead. It's not happened yet, but we see the tensions building. Because cities are great sucking processes. They suck in food. They don't feed themselves at all. They're parasitic. I live in London. It's in Empire City. It's rich, fabulous legacies left from 300 years of colonial exploitation, basically. But the foodways that came in from that are immense. In my city, I can eat 140 cuisines. This is both the joy and the beauty of the city, but also its parasitic nature. Food is big, big stuff for work. In London, our calculations is that cities and food is one of the only really big growing areas of employment, actually. People eat out. It's partly shaped by the cost of housing, transport, just the sheer size of cities. People live a long way away from where they work, and so they're eating out. They're eating all the time, too much, that's why they're getting fatter. But if only we could get them onto bicycles, then they might work it off. I sat and thought for a long time, believe it or not, about what to say in my 6 minutes. Oh, actually, it's 1 minute left. And I decided all I wanted to pose for you was this. I want you to look at those questions. My friend Jamie Oliver is, as ever, going to pose questions and listen to your questions. These are my questions. And actually, I partly had him in mind, so I know him and I speak with him. And those, I think, are what we've got to do. Why? Because London, we have a footprint of 6.6 hectares per person. The world average is 2. How can we get that down? London, the food accounts for 13% of the greenhouse gases that we emit as a city. It's malleable. Is the governance correct? Have we got institutions which can deal with this? I'm a member of the London Food Board. We started it in 2005. It's survived 3 mayor changes. We've just had a new mayor. We've just elected the first Muslim mayor in Europe. He's my MP, actually, my member of parliament. He's a good man. I voted for him. So he must be a good man. How can we have institutions which will address the food system for cities? And I will give you my stark answer. We haven't got them. There is a really interesting process of experimentation going on of food policy councils around the world. That's what our food board is. They don't have enough power. They don't have enough power. So the big thing for me is how can we lead that transition of healthy diets from sustainable food systems, what our new Eat Lancet Commission that Johan and Walt Willett from Harvard are co-chairing. I'm a member of that. I'm thinking cities in that, Johan. How are we going to lead this transition as cities? That's the question I'm posing to you. I have my own answers, but I wanted to just pose those questions. So when Jamie's asking you questions, don't ask him about institutions. He's hopeless on that. He's lovely, I love him, but that's not his area. That's the boring sort of work people like me do, okay? But you have got to come up with answers to that. And I'll tell you, Rosie Boycott and I, the chair of London Food Board, we met the other day and we just said, actually, we don't have enough powers. We haven't got regulations. We haven't got institutions which really have got leverage. And at that city level, I think that's what we need to do in the next 20 years.